would imagine, I think the Lord's just telling me to say this right now, that there's probably somebody listening in who you maybe are hearing what we say and that sounds really good, but you're resistant to have those conversations, holding on to these things because you don't want to burden your wife with the mess that you made or the things that you're holding on to, or you had opportunity to share it at some point and you didn't, or whatever, and you feel guilty about that. And I just want to speak to that guy. Like, practically speaking, this is some stuff I can give you. Is like, yeah, I'm not going to pull any punches on you. It's going to suck. It's not going to be a great day. Stuff that you've been boxing up and carrying around in a box that you can't feel it physically, but it's on your shoulders all the time. And so it's a move towards freedom. And so what you're doing for not only for yourself, because you're going to feel it, but you're now moving for your family, for you and your wife both. Like you're moving the family closer to freedom.
Thriving in Tandem. It's a podcast for you, the married entrepreneur that wants to win in business and marriage at the same time.
Welcome to Thriving in Tandem.
All right, here we are back with Thriving in Tandem. Welcome back, family.
Hi, you guys.
So today we've got Mark and Christine Jewell. Now it's interesting because we actually had somebody connected us to them last year. We had like a little meetup call. And then hadn't chatted since. And then a couple months ago, Christine's assistant reaches out to me and says, "Hey, I think you'd be a good fit for our show." And I said, "Sure." And then so we're kind of trading emails back and forth. And I'm like, that name sounds familiar. So went on there, found our website, looked it up, and I'm like, yeah, that's familiar. So I went on my calendar, went back to last year, and lo and behold, there was Mark and Christine. We had a meet and greet call. And so obviously this was meant to not just reconnect, but then also have each other and each other's show. We're just on Christine's show last month or not a couple of weeks ago. And so, so now we get to not only sit back down with Christine, but also Mark. So Mark and Christine are the founders of the Momentum Company, an agribusiness focused leadership development company, and they've worked with countless leaders around the globe. Mark in particular is an internationally renowned leadership speaker and coach. And in addition to speaking and coaching work, he also hosts the Intentional Agribusiness Leader podcast, where he shares actionable leadership insights with his growing audience. And he's also passionate about equipping the next generation of leaders. Through his keynote addresses, programs, and popular podcasts, Mark is on a mission to impact 10 million leaders.
Wow.
So what number are you at right now? All right. And then Christine, author, keynote speaker, and faith-based executive coach with over 25 years of experience in the fields of health and peak performance, entrepreneurship, and human behavior. She is also the host of the Breaking Chains podcast, which we're privileged to be on, and the founder of the Warriors of the Heart. She specializes in guiding highly successful CEOs and impact-driven leaders to break out of the superficial life they built, redefine success, and step into a whole new playing field grounded in eternal life-giving principles. They are the parents of a blended family of 6 children, ages 9 through 23. So that must be a fun house.
Yeah, but there's always some kind of fun going on there.
There's got to be a fun house. So
that's one way to describe it.
It is a fun house. In fact, right before this podcast, I sent him a reel that happened to come across my feed of like, maybe it's not about downsizing. Maybe the new thing is building intergenerational homes and properties. And we're like, yes,
there you
that
go.
is
That
the
can
new
fit
thing.
everybody. That can fit the whole family.
Exactly.
There you go.
Multi-generational families and properties.
That's going to be, maybe that's going to be the extension of your coaching consulting program or your podcast or both.
You never know.
But I mean, that is a great way to frame it, right? Instead of, because we always talk about downsizing, like once the kids move out and then it's okay, we got to downsize our life. And I know what they're saying, but I think from a mindset approach, maybe that's probably the wrong way to look at it because you keep talking about it, right? Downsizing. So I love the way you framed that, Christine. So I think you're onto something.
And our core thing is across all our businesses is unification leads to multiplication. Awesome. And so why would we be shrinking when we're called to expand?
Yeah. Absolutely. So currently, I mean, I love, as I was looking at your websites and all that, and of course, as we gotten to know each other, obviously your work is very much aligned with ours and helping high achievers bring a little bit more balance in their lives. You want to do great work, but not at the cost of your relationships, your faith, and anything else that you deem a priority. But you weren't always about that, right? Tell us about what life and business was like before you had that aha moment or period, realizing that you need to prioritize what matters most before that disappears. So kind of take us back a little bit in time to show about what was life and marriage and business like before the focus you have now?
Yes. Well, we are both very driven. We were both entrepreneurs even before we knew each other. We had both built several businesses before we knew each other. And like you said, this is our second marriage. And so I think very much, certainly for me, faith was always like there in the background. I would have said, yeah, I'm a Christian, but I need to go like build a business the way the world tells me to, right? There are certain things you got to do to be successful in life. And I was on a path to success. Always been very driven, come from the athletic world, been competing my whole life. And so it's just in our programming, right? It's like, this is the path to success. This is what you need to do to build businesses. This is what you need to do to get ahead. So I've actually never worked for anyone else. I've always been an entrepreneur ever since I was in my early 20s. And that's really the mindset I think we both brought into the marriage. At the time that we even met each other, I was several businesses in, you were several businesses in, and we were driven to succeed, to grow those businesses. In fact, we met at a Tony Robbins Business Mastery event in West Palm Beach. And we were both there like 100% to focus on blowing up our businesses. It was all about growth and scale. And so I would say like we were very focused on, this is my vision. This is my mission. This is like what I'm doing. We could talk about the story of how we got together later if that's relevant. And he was the same way. Even after we got together, it was like, great, you had your vision, business, mission. I had mine, and we were doing this, right? It was like, yes, we're like each other's number one fans. We were going side by side. We were paralleling it, and which was okay. We were really supportive of each other the whole time, but something still wasn't quite right. It was still a little bit of this sort of unspoken, how do we actually get the thing to mesh together? A little bit of a tug of war, competing interests. Not that we were ever butting against each other, but it was like, because we were doing this, sometimes you end up doing this, right? And the things start pulling. Well, I want to do this. Well, my vision says this. And so we were just trying to figure it out. And really, I just have to say that we got married. We still had our own businesses after we got married for the first couple of years. At the start of 2023, we always pick a word of the year. We've always done that. We don't pick a word of the year. The Lord gives us a word of the year. And the Lord put this word supernatural unification on my heart. And I was like, oh, that's going to be great, babe. Unification. We're already like each other's number one fans. We love business. We love hanging out together. We're just going to get closer. Well, we didn't realize that what the Lord was really setting us up was to get completely like one unified business, mind, body. And so we said yes to supernatural unification. And then we just started on a course where really the Lord was just starting to work in everything in our life to go, are you really unified? Let's talk about it, what it really means. And he started to get to work on our finances first, right? And he started to reveal to us all of the ways that we thought differently about money, that we managed money differently, that we had competing interests around money. And so he got that right. And then he worked on the way that we parented. And then it was like, it's time to merge your businesses. There's going to be one body of work. We still have our own independent things that we do inside of the business, but it's one mission, one North Star, one vision. And that was really the rocket fuel, I'm going to say, that changed everything for us. It was like we just started to really feel the grace of God move on our life, or the supernatural power of God come behind us and say, now you guys are getting somewhere. This is what it's like, and I brought you together for a reason. And so it's been beautiful to work through that whole evolution, and just really for us to say, Lord, where are you taking us as a whole? Like, what are you doing in the marketplace that you want us to be part of? And how do we get to come together and use our unique gifts and genius and talents to, support the whole, and also play together in a more powerful way and serve in a more powerful way. So it was just a really awesome journey of going from this, kind of butting heads, to really getting unified and going together.
It sounds so simple. Were there any challenges along the way that
Sounds simple.
made things a little rocky?
Well, the overview is simple, of course, right? It's like, hey, let's let the Lord assign us a word of the year, and then let's move into that. No, of course, there were so many challenges along the way. And as an example, right? I mean, it's like we came into this from two separate worlds with two separate books of business, different personal relationships, et cetera. When we came in just over 6 years ago, of course we had other things. And I was like, in my mind, transparently, I was like, well, okay, there's these financial things that are Mark's responsibility because, I created this before we ever met, maybe it was a pile of debt over here, or someone I owed money to over there, or something that needed cleaning up over here. And so it was, I treated that as if it was my responsibility, because it is, right? And then also when we unified everything, we also had to get very transparent about what those things were. And those conversations were not comfortable, right? Because now we have one business that's also paying off my past debt, right? Or her past debt, or this thing, or whatever. And so now it's like, well, okay, here's all the things. And it's like some of that I personally held on to longer than I probably should have or could have. As it's like, well, it's embarrassing. I don't want to have to talk about that. I'm just I'm going to go make the money. I'm going to get that paid off. And then we don't have to talk about it. I can just forget about it. And that was fun. That didn't work.
It never works.
That was a fun day.
I think, what's so powerful about that, and that's why I said the Lord started with us with the financial piece, with money. Because here we're like, we're going to continue to build these great businesses and do all this work. And he was like, yeah, but there's stuff. There's stuff you guys got to clean up that the hidden things need to be revealed, right? And this is like the conversations we all just want to shove in the closet or be like, okay, I made those bad decisions in the past. I'm a different person now. We don't need to talk about it. And I see this so often in couples too. Even my old business for 10 years in Canada, I used to have a holistic health and performance studio, and there would be all kinds of people coming in there buying memberships and like, I need to hide this from my spouse. I need to not let them know what I'm doing, because maybe it was $300 or $1,000 or whatever it was. And it was just the same kind of psychology of like, well, I'll just buy this and hide it in the closet and then pretend it's like, oh, this old thing, but there's hiding. There's a lack of transparency. And wherever that shows up for you. And for us, it was like right away, it was like the Holy Spirit was like, we are cleaning this up, because for you guys to be a powerhouse together, there can be no hiding. There can be no residue or fears from the past. There can't be anything that you're like, I'm afraid that this is going to come up. Right. And obviously we got to create a new, operating system around money, around wealth creation, stewardship, and also a new system for how we were going to steward and multiply resources that were coming in. And that had to be completely rewritten for both of us, because we had I ran money a certain way and managed it and made decisions a certain way for personally and professionally. And so did he. And then for our household. So now we had to do this like on 3 levels, right?
Yeah.
And bring it together.
And honestly, like when we first got married, we actually lived in 2 different countries for a year. And so there was geographical differences. We didn't have to kind of face the whole thing. When we finally moved in and settled our family here in North Carolina, where we live now, it was just, we had different ways of doing things. It's like, okay, well, I'll handle the mortgage payment and make sure like that gets handled. And then, you handle some of your stuff over here. There was just a lot of separation and lack of confusion and lack of transparency that we didn't know it at the time, but it was getting in the way of the relationship. We may not have had the label for that, but that was certainly happening. So it was definitely a challenge that we walked through.
Yeah. And, finances is the hot topic in a marriage anyway. And so obviously wisdom from the Lord, that dealing home first, how you deal with finances, how you deal with kids. Those are the 2 biggest hot button issues, especially with a blended family.
Yeah. Before you run a business,
you got to take care of home before you can take care of business, right? But when you take care of home, when you can do that well, then the sky's the limit on the business. So obviously it makes more sense just biblically, and obviously God's wise. And also that, finances, where your money is, that's where your heart is.
Yes.
So money is a heart issue. And so you just hit it right in the head. And this is obviously very common, because that's why it's the number 1 issue, finances. So how did you give us some practical tips? Because I know there's somebody listening, at least one couple, probably more, that is going, yeah, it sounds like us, but we always have justifications, rationalizations of why you handle money the way you guys did, and how it's very common. So how did you address this? Because the issue itself is a hot issue, right? But how did you eventually come back together, and what did you do to be able to move forward and say, hey, we're on the same page financially?
Because a lot of times a spender will marry a saver, and that can cause conflict right there.
Yeah, well, we're both spenders, so it's even better over here.
We're both spenders. We're both visionary. We're both highly creative. So that's a beautiful thing. And it's also very dangerous.
Yeah. When we decide to execute, things go scary fast, right? And, we need to surround ourselves with good, wise counsel on certain things. So once you make the decision, let's just skip to the part where you get together, you get unified, and you decide this is the direction we want to go, right? We want to have that level of transparency. We want to, let's just take money for an example. Christine's great with pictures, and she'll tell you about, giving money as an example, channels to flow through, right? In my mind, it's buckets. It's got to have buckets to go into. So practically speaking, since that's your question, practically speaking, we created rivers, right? Or channels for the money that flows in to go into. So when money flows into our business, the first 10%, we don't even think about it. It automatically goes into the tithing account. And that's where it goes. It's 10% off the top of every single transaction of inflow that comes into the business, no questions asked. And then we get to have a conversation later. Where do we allocate that? To the church, to the, we support the local food pantry pretty heavily. Where does that get to go? And that actually became a KPI for us now in our business. So now it's not about how much money we make, but how much do we get to give, right? And so that's the goal. We set that.
That was a huge shift for us.
That was a big shift as well. Yeah. So now it's, to make a certain amount of money is, motivating to a point, but once you can do that, now it's like, well, how much can we give? Right. And then, eventually future goals will be how much more, how much larger of a percentage of our income are we able to give away and support the charities and so forth that matter. So,
can I add to that too? I think this is really important for people who have been, I want to back up, like the big decision was that we were done with letting money be a point of contention. We had conversations, like money had just created tension, financial discussions. There was a little bit of that, okay, you just manage your stuff the way you want, I'll do mine, but that never works, right? Because there's still this residue of resentment or bitterness or mistrust. So the decision was, we are done letting money control us, dictate us, or have any fear around money. And we were both really good at making money, okay? We never had a revenue problem, okay? We were always making a lot of money. The problem was we were terrible when it came to stewarding it, and we were allowing it to rule us. And also so much of the focus coming from the world system was around revenue. How much can you make? How much can you make? So really, as we said, money is not going to have this hold on us or our marriage where we're going to have to hide or be awkward around it or have shame around past money decisions. Like, we are done. We are the masters, right? We're going to be the lenders, not the borrowers. We're going to be the head and not the tail. We're going to have dominion over it, not it have dominion over us. And that's where the shift from like, how much can we make to how much can we give? Like, that is such a huge shift. And I remember us getting really excited. Like, what if we can give 150K? What if we can give 300? And now as you think about the impact of that and the ripple effect of what those gives do for a community, something as simple as buying a cooler for a food pantry, that helps thousands of families have access to protein. And what does that do to those kids at school? And so now you're starting to change your whole frame of thinking as a couple away from like, how much money can we get so that we can make it to make our bills, to like, what is the impact be of our gift? And that, I'm going to say, for me, it was like the first time I got excited about revenue creation and what we could bring in, and like getting excited about creating revenue goals in the business, and for us as a couple, money goals, and getting excited about the money conversation. Because it wasn't about, what do we have to pay? You know what I mean? It was actually like, wow, we're contributing and we're creating something here that's meaningful together.
And especially when you're talking about, just for example, the cooler, we always kind of look at our giving, and we even tell our clients, like, look at it as an investment. So that cooler, that's an investment. That thing keeps on giving, right? It wasn't just a one-time thing.
Correct.
It's actually an asset that's being used to serve, and you count how many families it's serving. Now you're like, okay, that one gift is serving and impacting how many families, how many people, right? It's an amazing, and you're right. It totally reframes your mind when you think of, this isn't just like a task to give, right? It's actually something like, oh my gosh, you're really impacting people. Yeah. And that's amazing. I remember.
Well,
No, go ahead.
It reminds me of the Salvation Army. The founder gave away 95% and lived on 5%.
Because he had no debt either, right? So that was another decision for us, is really eliminating debt from our life so that we could get to the place of being generous, right? It's hard to do that when you feel like, okay, everything that's coming in is going out.
And that was part of the practical system of buckets or rivers, or where so as money flows in, the 10% goes to the tithe account, the next 20% goes to owner pay, the next 10% goes into another account for taxes, then there's 50% or so left over to run the business on. and or pay down debt or whatever the case may be, but then we allocate it from there. But everything has a place to go, and that really shifted the money conversation for us practically and made it a lot easier for us to have that conversation, because there's just certain things like we made the rules and we agree to the rules, and the rules are the rules, and so we just agreed to play by that. And so it's not a question. And if we need more money for something else, right, then we have to go grow the business to be able to afford that thing.
And
go ahead.
It's very exciting when you get unified on. I didn't even know we were going to talk about money today, but it's very exciting when you get unified, because we really got clear. Like, again, I really believe it comes down to making the decision, like, this is what we are doing, this is what we are agreeing to, and we gamified it, and we had a spreadsheet, and we would get excited about paying off our debts. It's like dumb decisions of things that we bought and like finance that we didn't even need to finance, but we paid off nearly $300,000 of debt in less than 18 months.
Awesome. That's great. Oh, the debt-free screen. You get to do it right here. This might not be Dave Ramsey, but go ahead.
It's empowering, right? You're sliding stuff over and you're like high-fiving. And when you look at the impact of like, we gave this and we paid off this much debt, and you really start to see like we are changing the tides together, right? And then you really look at everything that comes in your business and you're thinking, how do we do this in the business? How do we make every resource really be counting and working and glorifying God? And so it's just a total different frame.
When you go down that path, by the way, when you get united and you start moving this direction, and I think this would apply to money, but it also applies to relationships with the kids and the things that we're seeing happen with our kids right now that are also miraculous. But I mean, the Lord showed up in a big way as we committed to paying off debt and being the lender, not the borrower, working to put ourselves in that position. And we're still on our way there. But along the way, like, we had $60,000 in debt that just got erased. Like, it got forgiven. And we never had to pay it back at all, out of our, right? So that's 60 of that 300 that we're talking about. And so he gets on your team, right? He's on your team anyway, whether or not you, but he is for you, and he wants to make these things happen and help grease the skids to, so to speak. So, so that's been amazing. And then that sends a ripple effect through our family. So our kids are starting to follow the money system as well. We trained that into them. We're starting to see other really amazing things crop up. So, we pray for our future son-in-laws and that our daughters will have, amazing men in their lives and daughter-in-laws and things like that, because we're now we're unified around other things. We're creating from abundance, not from a place of survival or starvation or anything like that. And it just is, we're just really, really abundantly blessed in that department. We were running a household of half a dozen kids from blended families. Christine's mom lives here with us, so we often have 9 people before we have boyfriends and girlfriends joining in.
It's the fun house.
So it gets full really quickly, and everybody likes each other and looks forward to seeing each other and looks forward to the family dinners that we have almost every evening without fail when we're home, and it just snowballs.
No, that's great. And so, you pretty much just drove right into the third question I had, which was the practical disciplines that keeps you connected while you're building a business. And that finance piece, how you deal with your money at home, that brings you connected, because you literally are now on the same page. Those major fights are over. You're connected better than ever, and you can just go, conquer the world, so to speak. So how has that spilled over? How do you approach, and you kind of teased on it a little bit, but how do you approach business a little bit differently now than before that still brings the success that you're always accustomed to, but not at the cost of your relationship? Anything different?
One thing I just want to kind of connect the two themes here to the two segments, I guess, if you will. So first of all, I would imagine, I think the Lord's just telling me to say this right now, that there's probably somebody listening in who you maybe are hearing what we say and that sounds really good, but you're resistant to have those conversations because that seems really scary. And what if she knows all about all the things that you've been hiding, right? Like, I just want to speak to that guy really quick.
Or woman.
I'll let you talk to her. I'll talk to him. I'll speak to that guy, right? Because I was that guy, right? And you're holding on to these things because you don't want to burden your wife with the mess that you made or the things that you're holding on to, or you had opportunity to share it at some point and you didn't, or whatever, and you feel guilty about that. And I just want to speak to that guy, like, practically speaking, this is some stuff I can give you. Is like, yeah, I'm not going to pull any punches on you. It's going to suck. It's not going to be a great day, right? But you're going to do it, and then you're going to get through it, and you're going to come out the other side. And then now you don't have to hold on to it. You've unpacked You've effectively unpacked all this stuff that you've been boxing up and carrying around in a box that you can't feel it physically, but it's on your shoulders all the time. And so it's a move towards freedom. And so what you're doing for not only for yourself, because you're going to feel it, but you're now moving for your family, for you and your wife both. Like you're moving the family closer to freedom. Right. And so to tag that onto the next part of your question, Robert, it's like, well, so now our business is serving to help curate that freedom. Right. And we're moving the business together. I mean, it's it's the same kind of conversation that we're having that we get to have in the financial arena. It's like, well, my vision is this is what I'm casting. So now we get to allocate. I mean, we got to get aligned and agree to that vision. And then we put together the processes and systems that help make that vision come to life. And we go to work on it in that way. It's different things, but it's the same blueprint.
Also, I think that 100%, even in business, we work with a lot of executive teams and stuff like that as well. Teams, if there's hiding and fear and shame, like there is no unification. It's really hard to grow sustainably, right? And so for us, the financial thing also helped us to, get really clear on a unified vision, to be like, there's only one way we're rowing, and it's that direction. It's not our feet in the water forward and this other thing. So it was really like getting clear on what that was, what was our North Star. And here's the thing, when you don't have to hide and you don't have to self-protect or watch your back all the time, you can just do what you're supposed to be doing, meaning we can operate in our genius. So that was another huge piece of us. God was working in us, because before we were both used to being like the main person, large and in charge, right? And all of a sudden he's like, Christine, you're focusing on this. Mark, your job is this. And so I had to get my fingers out of the pie of sales, and Mark took all the revenue generation on. And it was like, okay, this is his superpower. His superpower is being that super connector, doing those discovery calls, really getting in the heart of organizations. Can I do sales? Yes. Am I good at it? Yes. Do I enjoy it? Yes. But it wasn't the right seat for me. The Lord had me work on doing other things. I was writing a book, and I was building infrastructure for our team, and I was redoing all the branding because I'm more of the creative. And so it's just really being able to relax, let go of trying to control everything out of fear. Because if you're in bed with fear, it's going to run over you in other areas, right? You're going to be fighting for control and power over things. And if you're in bed with shame, you're going to feel like you're never good enough at everything you do. And if you're in bed with, betrayal and all this stuff. So I'm sharing that because when you truly make the decision to get it cleaned out, right? You're like, whatever this stuff is, like that's creating these fights, these misunderstandings, we're going to talk about that, not how you're paying bills, right? Like what's the thing that's causing it? Then you start to establish order. There's better order, and businesses need order and structure to thrive. Money needs order and businesses or structure to thrive. Children need order and structure to thrive, and not so much that it's stifling, but the processes and the systems and the structure, whether it's money meetings or team meetings, they give us freedom. Discipline creates freedom. But you can't, if you try to implement the structure without cleaning up the emotional stuff that's there and the faulty operating systems that you guys have, the building's going to fall every time. And I literally just had a coaching call with a client about this, that him and his wife, they're trying to do this merging of their businesses, and they're building all these systems and structure. And he's like, man, we get like 2 steps ahead and 5 steps back. I said, that's because you guys still have stinking thinking in the basement. In your foundation, you have bad operating systems. So every time you try to put a new process in place, you guys don't stick to it because you have fear running the show, right? So then great, you put a boundary in place, but you don't respect your own boundaries.
Right. Yep. Yeah, we've seen this same way with our clients too. We found that it's like the one common thing we've seen that limits the growth of the business is just they're not on the same page. They just can't come to agreement. They just sabotage each other. And I'm like, man, you just can't do that. It's not good. It's not working, right? So no, that's great.
Sweep stuff under the carpet, so the carpet just keeps getting higher and higher and higher, and there's just becomes more things that they can't talk about or don't want to talk about, and it just doesn't leave them much to talk about then.
I loved how you just kind of framed. You were talking earlier too, Christine, about kind of roles and responsibilities and respecting them. Yeah, you can do the other thing. We all can. We can all do the other thing. But should we? Is that really beneficial for the business? Otherwise, we're all doing the same thing, right? And we just had duplication of tasks, and we're not growing. So Christine, Mark and I spoke to the men, the husbands right now. Do you want to say anything specifically to the wives that are listening?
Well, I will just say, I do believe all our problems come back to relationship problems. So if we're having struggles in business, we're having struggles with cash flow, we're having struggles with each other, I would just really ask you, like, how am I doing with my relationship with myself as a woman, my relationship with God, truly trusting that He is ultimately the provider of all resources. He's going to provide vision. He's going to provide direction. So I think it's very tempting as a woman to step in and be like, I'll take the reins and I'm going to lead this and I'm going to clean up your mess and I'm going to, because women, we're good at that. We like projects sometimes and we like to, and it's a control issue because it's a security issue. It's a security issue for us women. We want to know, am I protected? Like, do you have my back? Am I provided for? Like, are we going to be okay? And if we don't sense that, we're getting that from our husbands and certainly from the Lord, we're going to step in and try to do God's job, which is try to do the things that our husband that only the Holy Spirit can do. And then we're going to try to step into, I would call it more masculine role, right? Where we try to be the structure. And I don't believe that that's what the feminine was called to do. We're actually called to be the heartbeat, the vision, to breathe life into things. And when we are in our best, flow, Mark is able to be the structure, right? To be the structure. God is always the Godhead. We trust Him. He's ultimately the provider of resources, not Mark, even though he's a great salesman, right? The Lord is the one that brings the right opportunities when we're in alignment. He's the head. And then when Mark is able to be the structure and provide that for me, and I'm able to just relax and say, you know what, I'm going to just pour my heart into this. I'm going to nurture. I'm going to love on. I'm going to be creative. I'm going to speak life over this business. I'm going to speak life over my husband. I'm going to speak life over our finances, not constantly being like, oh my gosh, nothing's working. You're not doing it right. And I've done that, right? I have very much, and struggled with control, right? Needing to take the reins because I come from that background. Ever since I was 17, I was living on my own. I was my own protector. I was my own provider. I had to make sure, and I cleaned up a lot of messes after a lot of boys and men and employees and everyone else because I thought that's what I needed to do. And I just want to say that I speak to a lot of women who are exhausted and they're burnt out because they're trying to do, number one, they're trying to play God and Savior for everyone else, or they're trying to do the role that really God is calling their husband to do. And now they don't love their business anymore. They're burnt out and they don't really look at their husband with the same eyes that they used to, right? It's like, now I'm not even attracted to you. I'm tired. And it's like, you're trying to wear the wrong, you're just wearing the wrong outfit. And so I think the biggest thing is that we have to go back and revisit really, what is my relationship with the Lord like? Because He's first and foremost my spiritual husband. He is the author of creation and everything in it. He has the best business blueprints we could ever ask for. So if I know that my relationship with Him is solid and I can rest and I can learn to trust and relax and have much better conversations here because we know that we're provided for and we know that we are guided. And so now I'm like, okay, the Lord made him with a unique blueprint and talents and gifts and abilities to execute on that I don't have. And He made me unique and I have unique gifts and talents and blueprints. So this is what allowed us to really start to operate in our roles without fighting for the same seat, was remembering if we do that, one of us or both of us is not operating in the seat that the Lord has called us, right? We're missing our assignment. We're abandoning our post. So I'm always like, Lord, what are the orders from headquarters? What's the authorized work from me in this season? What seat do you want me in? Knowing the gifts and talents I have as a wife and as a business owner and as a mother. And, sometimes the season is like, you're not working as many hours. You're more focused on your family. Sometimes it's like, we're working a lot on infrastructure. We're building systems right now. And sometimes it's go out there and speak and run events. And it just depends. So it's like, am I willing to submit, ladies? Are we willing to submit to the authority that is the head, right? That is ultimately the Lord. But then we're able to submit to this as well.
That's so good. So thanks, Mark, too, for interjecting, talk about to the men, which really led to this, Christine. And so I think the interview went a different direction, I thought, but it was so good. I mean, it was so rich, and it's a big issue. It's a very common topic, and it needs to be addressed. I don't think it gets addressed enough. So speaking of connection, because a lot of what we're talking about is a connection. It all starts with our connection, being on the same page as husband and wife. But Christine they have a free resource, the communication cheat sheet for deeper connection. So go to the ChristineJewell.com. It's in the show notes, the ChristineJewell.com/communication-cheat-sheet. It's in the show notes. Go grab that, as well as check them out on the momentumcompany.com on their webpage for their leadership. So yeah, Mark and Christine, thank you for coming on. It was just, thanks you for just opening up your heart and just being more vulnerable and share some of the stuff back there. That's really most, if not all marriages deal with at some level. Right. For me, finances are huge. Families are huge. So thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah. Thank you for being so open with us.
You bet. Thanks for having us on.
So you're still listening, which means you're definitely impacted. And just like Mark was sharing to you, you need to also, as Mark and Christine was sharing to you, you need to pass this along, share this with another married business owner that you know needs to hear this, even if they haven't talked about finances in front of you. But I guarantee you they probably talk about it behind closed doors. So share this episode. It's rich. It's very practical. It's also very heartfelt. So please share this. And until next week, God bless you. Thank you for listening to the Thriving in Tandem podcast. Please visit our website, marriedentrepreneur.co, for a variety of free resources to help your marriage and business succeed.
And feel free to leave us a review and share this episode with another married entrepreneur. That would mean so much to us.
See you next week.